So, Eurovision 2025 is over, and yeah, it was chaotic. Fans are in full uproar, and if things go like last year, we're in for at least a month of drama. So, here are some opinions, some of them unpopular in the Eurovision bubble from what I've seen. Or maybe they're not even that unpopular, but no one's really talking about them. Sorry for the robot voice, but my accent is not YouTube friendly. LOL. Number 1. Austria was 100% guaranteed to win. The juries eat pop opera alive. They throw points at it like their lives depend on it. Even if it's not number 1 with the public, the vocals are always good and impressive enough to land top 5 in the televote. Add the sums and boom, instant winner. It's literally Eurovision math at this point. Number 2. Estonia beating Sweden in the televote was not actually that crazy. Here's the thing. Because of Israel's participation, the crowd this year was muted. The atmosphere tanked. Estonia's entry was more of a skit. It didn't need a hyped crowd to land. Unlike Sweden, everyone in the arena was chanting, dancing, and vibing. But on TV, it just didn't translate. A part of the magic got lost. Both songs had the same target group, but Estonia benefited from the flat energy. Simple as that. Number 3. The crowd being mute really impacted the televote. I think this was an issue for many performances, and it helps explain some of the confusion around the televote results. Sweden didn't come across nearly as strong on TV as it did in arena clips, where the whole crowd is dancing. Same goes for Malta. If we could actually hear the crowd, I'm convinced they would have scored at least 20 more points. Even Australia in the semifinals suffered from this. The energy was clearly there in the arena, but it just didn't translate through the broadcast. And this is especially true in the case of Finland. She really got burned by the audio for several reasons. And I say this as an Erica stan. Ruoska is literally my most streamed song of 2024. Her performance just didn't land on TV. The final wasn't her best. She was stronger in the semi, better vocals, tighter energy. And the audio issues during the final really hurt her. Not only were her vocals noticeably weaker, but the decision to mute the crowd because of Israel completely killed the atmosphere on the broadcast. Everyone in the arena says it was electric, but at home it was flat. And that's not Erica's fault, but it absolutely impacted how the performance came across to the average viewer. I think that's also partially the reason for some of the bad sound mixing, especially during these very energetic and fun performances. Filtering the audience obviously gets harder the louder the audience is. So, because of the filtering, we could barely hear Erica herself. She was clearly giving it her all. She was red-faced, shouting her lungs out, literally screaming during the second part, which made it even more awkward to watch because it didn't come through. It legit sounded like her mic was turned down. Not only does it make everything feel empty on TV, but it seriously affects the performances too. I am the exact demographic for songs like Finland's and Malta's, where everyone in the arena was saying they were slaying the house down boots, and maybe they were in the arena, but from the TV broadcast, surely didn't. When a performance relies on crowd energy, especially hype-driven or high-movement acts, it absolutely tanks the experience for the average viewer if the crowd is dead. And since I mentioned Finland and Malta, since both were catering to a pretty similar niche pretty much, their points got split. And I think it's the same for the juries and the televote. People who would vote for songs like Malta and Finland, for one reason or another, voted for Finland in the end. Number 4. Italy and Greece scoring that high wasn't surprising at all. Both of these songs were exactly the kind of entries that tend to do well with juries. In the case of Italy, live instrumentation, beautiful lyrics, and performances that leaned into the 80s alternative/new romantics aesthetic. Greece had a ballad, but it stood out from the other ballads because of the Greek musical elements woven into it. Claudia was absolutely on point with her vocals every single time, and again, the lyrics were really pretty. People expected Italy to maybe not do as well with the public, and sure, they scored better with the juries, but they pulled way more televote points than expected, and that's probably because of the storytelling. The lyrics were superb, and thanks to the subtitles, people could actually follow them even if they didn't speak Italian. Combine that with Lucio's sweet and soft presence, and it just hit home for a lot of viewers. Greece, on the other hand, did just a bit better with the public than the juries. Alongside Austria's semi-ballad, it was one of the only ballads with really strong vocals that also sounded different. Different enough to stand out and not be forgotten by the average viewer. Her vocals were superb and apparently touched a lot of people. Even those who didn't understand the lyrics, and the staging was memorable and emotional. So, yeah, both entries connected with people on a deeper level than some superfans want to admit, and at the same time had the musicality and performance quality to appeal to juries too. Number 5. France and Switzerland plummeting with the public, even if the juries ate them up, was pretty expected. France basically sent the same ballad they send every year. For better or worse, they've been recycling an extremely similar formula for years now, and obviously, not all of those songs are equally strong. In 2021 and 2024, this kind of entry worked. This year, it didn't. The song just wasn't as strong, and the staging and camera work were pretty unfortunate and honestly made it worse. Switzerland, on the other hand, not only won last year, and we know people often vote less for the previous year's winner to give other countries a shot, but they also sent a flat, quiet ballad that sounded like France's usual formula, in French, in a year that already had too many mid-tempo French-sounding songs. So, personally, I'm not surprised by how the public voted. For ballad lovers, Greece and Austria both had more compelling songs, and they stood out more. Israel, of course, pulled in a bunch of political votes, even though their song was basically a copy of last year's entry, but somehow even more boring. So France and Switzerland got dust. And let's be honest, these songs were targeting the same audience. Not just ballad lovers in general, but specifically fans of this type of French or French-adjacent ballad. That audience was split between them, and even with the Netherlands, which wasn't a full ballad but still had a similar tone. And as always, the juries dogpiled behind these kinds of songs, especially when they come from Western countries. Number 6. I'm sadly not surprised at all by Albania's disappointing jury results. The juries don't necessarily appreciate more out there. Artistic songs unless they're ballads, and even then, not always. The whole situation reminded me a lot of Spain in 2023. Everyone thought the juries would eat that up, but they didn't. And let's be real, they especially don't appreciate these kinds of songs when they come from the Eastern Bloc. Justice for Albania 2025 and Serbia 2022. Number 7. Lastly, and sadly, with the situation being what it is, with Israel still in the competition and the massive ad campaigns they've run, plus the fact that the semifinals are now public vote only, which means more public-friendly songs get through, we're left with this mess. The televote gets split in the final, while fewer jury-friendly songs make it through, and the juries dogpile their points on a small pool. Add Israel getting a huge chunk of support for political reasons, and it basically leaves us with only two options. Either we get a jury winner, or Israel wins. So yeah. Thanks for watching, and congratulations, JJ. EB, please fix your shit next year. Please and thank you. Bye.